The best garden ideas are not complicated. They're not expensive. They do not require professional skills, specialist tools, or a weekend course to understand. They're the ideas that make you stop when you see them and think, why has nobody shown me this before? Simple, clever, obvious the moment you see them. Impossible to unsee once you do. Today, 15 of them, plus a handful of bonus ideas that I could not leave off this list because every single one earned its place. 15 plus simple, genius DIY backyard garden ideas that anyone can try. Not anyone with a design background. Not anyone with a landscaping budget. Anyone, this weekend, with what they already have access to. Stay to the very last idea, because that one is the simplest thing on this entire list, and the one that makes the biggest difference to how your backyard feels every single day. Let's go. Welcome back to Daily Garden Fix, the channel where the backyard you keep putting off becomes the one you are actually proud of this weekend. Before idea one, drop a comment right now and tell me the one thing about your backyard that bothers you most. The thing you walk past every day and wish was different. Tell me what it is. I read every comment on this channel, and I reply to everyone with a specific fix for that exact problem. Idea 1. The 3-layer container. Idea number 1. The single container trick that makes one pot look like a professional planting scheme. Most people fill a container with one type of plant, one color, one height, one texture, and it looks fine. But fine is not what we are after. The 3-layer container uses 3 plants simultaneously. One that goes up, one that fills out, and one that falls down. A tall, upright thriller in the center, a grass, a dahlia, a standard fuchsia, a dense, mounding filler around the middle, petunias, bacopa, calibrachoa, a trailing spiller over the rim, sweet potato vine, dechandra, trailing lobelia. The thriller draws the eye upward. The filler gives the arrangement fullness and body. The spiller softens the hard edge of the pot and connects it to the ground below. 3 plants, 1 pot. The combination reads as designed rather than placed, because it follows the same vertical structure principle that professional planting designers use on beds and borders of any size. Apply it to every container in the backyard, and the whole space elevates immediately. Budget, $10 to $15 per container and plants. Idea 2. The inverted bottle slow drip feeder. Idea number 2. The irrigation hack that solves the most common reason container plants die: inconsistent watering. Take any plastic bottle, fill it with diluted liquid fertilizer or plain water. Invert it and push the neck directly into the compost of any container plant, deep enough that the neck sits in the root zone. The liquid releases slowly and consistently into the root zone over 24 to 48 hours, not in a sudden flood that runs straight through the pot and out the drainage holes, but a slow, continuous delivery that the roots can actually use. Make 2 or 3 for your most demanding containers: tomatoes, dahlias, large hanging baskets. Fill them before a weekend away, and your plants water themselves while you're gone. The neck size of the bottle controls the flow rate. A narrow neck releases more slowly. A wide neck releases faster. Match the flow rate to the plant's water demand. Budget 0. Idea 3. The painted concrete path. Idea number 3. The transformation that costs under $20 and makes the most neglected surface in any backyard. The concrete path. Look like it was designed. Existing concrete paths do not need to be replaced. They need to be painted. Exterior masonry paint in a single confident color: warm terracotta, slate gray, deep charcoal, aged white. Applied in 2 coats transforms a stained, tired concrete surface into a clean, intentional one. Add a simple stencil border along the edges using a cut acetate stencil and the contrasting tone. A repeating leaf form. A simple geometric stripe. One stenciled motif repeated along the full length of both edges. The stencil border is what takes this from painted concrete to design pathway. It says someone made a decision here. Someone chose this. And that sense of deliberate choice is what makes any surface in a backyard read as considered. Seal with 2 coats of exterior paving sealant over the finished paint. It makes the surface weatherproof and easy to clean for multiple seasons. Budget, under $20. Idea 4. The self-seeding flower patch. Idea number 4. The garden idea that requires the most effort up front, which is almost none, and the least effort in every subsequent year, which is none at all. Find one neglected corner of the backyard. Clear it of weeds. Rough up the soil surface with a fork. Scatter generously with a self-seeding annual mix. Nigella, calendula, borage, opium poppy, larkspur, cornflower. These are all plants that set seed at the end of their flowering season. Drop that seed onto the soil below and germinate themselves the following spring without any intervention. Cover lightly with a thin layer of sharp sand. Water once. Leave entirely. What happens the first year is a meadow of color. Informal, abundant, brimming with pollinators. That costs the price of 2 seed packets. What happens in the second year costs nothing at all because the plants sowed themselves. And in the third year, and every year after that, the patch is self-sustaining, a permanently flowering corner of the backyard that manages itself entirely. The only maintenance it ever needs is a rough cut at the end of autumn to clear the spent stems, by which point the seeds for next year are already in the soil below. Budget, $2 to $4 for seed packets in year 1. 0 every year after. Idea 5. The buried terracotta irrigation pot. Idea number 5. The 4,000-year-old irrigation technique that is still the most water-efficient growing method available and costs under $5 to install. 2 small, unglazed terracotta pots of the same size. Seal the drainage hole of one with exterior waterproof sealant. Press the base of the sealed pot against the base of the second pot. Seal around the join line. Allow to cure for 24 hours. Bury the joined double pot in the soil beside the plant it will serve, leaving only the top neck of the upper pot above soil level. Fill through the neck with water. Cork the neck between fillings with a wine cork. The unglazed clay is porous. Water seeps continuously through the clay walls directly into the surrounding root zone, drawn outward by the drier soil, slowing automatically when the soil reaches adequate moisture. The system regulates itself. Refill every 3 to 5 days. The plant draws exactly the water it needs. Root growth concentrates around the pot. The plant grows stronger, produces more, and requires less attention than anything watered conventionally. Budget, $4 to $8 per pot. Idea 6. The single-color planting scheme. Idea number 6. The planting decision that costs nothing and makes more visual difference to a backyard than almost any structural change. Pick one color. 1. And plant it everywhere. Not every plant in the backyard. Your existing planting stays as it is. But in one defined area, one border, one group of containers, one bed, commit to a single color completely. All white, all purple, all yellow, all deep red. What happens visually is remarkable. The space becomes coherent in a way that a mixed planting scheme rarely achieves. The eye moves through the area without friction. No jarring color contrasts, no competing focal points, just one color in varying tones, textures, and flower forms building on itself across the whole planting. Gertrude Jekyll called it color theory in the garden. White gardens at Sissinghurst. The yellow borders at Great Dickster. These are world-famous garden features built entirely on the principle of color commitment. You do not need a famous garden to use the same principle. One bed, one color, one season. See what it does to the space. Budget, the cost of replacing whatever was there before with plants in your chosen color. Idea 7. The Pallet compost bin. Idea number 7. The garden infrastructure project that is completely free and that every backyard needs, but most never have. For reclaimed wooden pallets. Stand them on edge in a square formation, each pallet forming one wall of the bin. Fix adjacent pallets to each other at the corners using 2 or 3 zip ties or short lengths of wire twisted tight. Leave one pallet unfixed on one side. This is the front panel that lifts away when you need to access the finished compost at the base of the bin. Line the inside walls with cardboard to prevent compost from falling through the pallet gaps. Leave the base open to bare soil. The contact with soil is essential for the composting process, as the microorganisms and worms that break down the material need to migrate up from the ground below. Fill with alternating layers of green material, kitchen vegetable scraps, fresh grass clippings, soft plant trimmings, and brown material, dried leaves, cardboard scraps, woody prunings. Keep the ratio roughly equal. Keep the contents moist but not wet. Turn the pile monthly with a garden fork. Within 3 to 4 months, the lower layer is finished, dark, crumbly compost, the most valuable material any garden produces and one that most people pay to buy in bags from a garden center. Budget, zero. The infrastructure project that pays for itself in free compost within its first season. Idea 8. The repeating plant rhythm. Idea number 8. The planting principle that makes a backyard look professionally designed and costs nothing beyond the decision to apply it. Take one plant you love, a grass, a lavender, a salvia, a low clipped evergreen, and plant it in at least 3 separate locations across the backyard. Not clustered together, distributed, one at the entrance, one in the middle, one at the far end. Spaced so that as the eye moves through the space, it encounters the same plant at intervals, and each encounter reinforces the coherence of the whole. This repetition is rhythm, and rhythm is what separates a planted space that feels designed from one that feels assembled. A collection of different plants placed once each throughout a garden is a catalog. The same plant placed 3 times is a composition. Professional garden designers call this the repeat plant. It is the one plant that holds a planting scheme together regardless of what else changes around it. Choose it carefully. Plant it deliberately. Let it do its work. Budget, the cost of 2 additional plants matching one you already have. 8 ideas in. 7 more to go, plus the bonus ideas. Coming up, the dead space solution that every backyard has and nobody ever addresses. And the final idea, the simplest thing on this list that makes the biggest difference to how your backyard feels every single day. Keep watching. Idea 9, the wine bottle torch. Idea number 9, the garden lighting idea that uses an empty wine bottle and produces outdoor lighting of genuine warmth and character. Take an empty wine bottle, any color, any shape. Fill it 3/4 full with citronella lamp oil or standard lamp oil. Thread a cotton oil lamp wick through a metal wick holder, available online for under $1 each, and push the wick holder into the neck of the bottle so the wick extends approximately 1 centimeter above the bottle neck. Allow the wick to absorb oil for 10 minutes before lighting. Light the protruding wick. The flame burns steadily and slowly from the oil reservoir in the bottle below, a warm, steady, continuous flame. A cluster of 3 or 5 wine bottle torches in varying glass colors, green, brown, clear, grouped together on a garden table or along a pathway edge at dusk creates an outdoor lighting display of genuine beauty. The colored glass catches and warms the flame light. The citronella oil deters mosquitoes. The whole arrangement costs almost nothing. Extinguish by placing a metal bottle cap over the wick. The oil in the bottle lasts multiple evenings. Refill as needed. Budget, under $1 per wick holder. Oil and bottles are the only ongoing cost. Idea 10, the dead space corner solution. Idea number 10, the project that addresses the part of every backyard that everyone ignores and that no single idea ever seems to fix. The dead corner. The awkward angle where 2 fences meet. The gap between the shed and the boundary. The narrow strip beside the path that nothing ever seems to grow in. Dead spaces in a backyard look dead because they're treated as spaces to fill rather than as spaces to define. The fix is not to plant them more densely. It is to give them a purpose. A dead corner becomes alive the moment it is given a reason to exist. A garden bench positioned in it, even a small one, even a log round and a folding chair, makes it a destination. A seating corner, somewhere to go. A dead gap beside a shed becomes a vertical growing space the moment a simple bamboo trellis is pushed into the ground along its length and a climbing plant is set at the base. The narrow strip fills upward rather than outward. The dead space becomes a living wall. A neglected strip beside a path becomes a fragrance corridor when planted densely with low lavender, thyme, or catmint. Plants that release their scent when brushed against by anyone walking the path. The rule for dead spaces: do not fill them. Define them. Give them a purpose. The purpose is what makes them come alive. Budget, dependent on the solution chosen. Often zero. Idea 11. The hanging gutter planter. Idea number 11. The planting idea that uses one of the cheapest materials at any hardware store and produces a continuous linear planting feature of real visual interest. A length of PVC guttering, the kind used on house roofs. Cut to length and end capped at both ends. Drill drainage holes at 6-inch intervals along the base. Fill with a shallow-rooted compost mix. Hang the gutter horizontally from a fence, a wall, or a pergola beam using 2 lengths of rope or chain fixed through holes drilled at each end. 1 rope at each end, looped over a fence post or beam above. The gutter hangs level, suspended at the height you choose. Plant with shallow-rooted crops and flowers, strawberries, which trail beautifully over the gutter edge. Salad leaves for a continuous cut and come-again harvest. Trailing lobelia and bacopa for a pure ornamental version. Herbs, chives, basil, parsley for a kitchen garden version that hangs directly beside the back door. 3 or 4 gutters at different heights on the same fence panel create a tiered hanging garden of genuine visual interest and significant growing capacity in zero ground space. PVC guttering costs $2 to $4 per meter. End caps are under $1 each. The most productive use of a fence panel available at any price. Budget: $5 to $10 per gutter planter. Idea 12. The newspaper mulch layer. Idea number 12. The weed suppression technique that costs nothing and works better than most products sold specifically for the purpose. Before applying any decorative mulch to a garden bed, collect a generous supply of newspaper. Lay it across the bare soil surface of the bed in overlapping layers 4 to 6 sheets thick. Overlap adjacent sections by at least 6 inches so no gaps exist through which weeds can penetrate. Wet the newspaper thoroughly. A wet newspaper layer molds itself to the soil surface and stays in place rather than blowing. Then apply the decorative mulch layer on top, bark chip, wood chip, or gravel, to a depth of 2 inches over the newspaper. The newspaper below blocks light to weed seeds in the soil permanently, or for the duration of the season, by which time it has decomposed into the soil and contributed organic matter to the bed. The decorative mulch above protects the newspaper from wind and provides the finished visual appearance. No weed seeds germinate through 6 layers of wet newspaper. The few that blow in from above onto the mulch surface are easily removed before they establish. This is the weed suppression method that requires no expenditure, no specialist products, and no equipment beyond what every household already produces every week. Budget zero. Idea 13. The Color Pop Single Plant. Idea number 13. The planting idea that costs $5 and changes the visual dynamic of an entire backyard. In a backyard planted predominantly in greens, which most backyards are, regardless of what else is growing in them. A single plant in a genuinely bold, saturated color placed in a key position creates a focal point of extraordinary visual impact. Not a bed of bold color, not a border of mixed color. One plant, one position, one color that is the most saturated, most striking, most unexpected thing in the entire space. A deep burgundy phormium in a dark pot against a green fence. A single bright red dahlia in a white container on a gray patio. An electric blue agapanthus in a terracotta pot at the end of a green border. The single bold color plant works because the eye, moving through the predominantly green space, finds it and stops. It becomes the focal point of the whole backyard without anything structural being built, without anything being removed, without anything being rearranged. Change it with the seasons. What provides a color pop in spring is different from what provides it in summer and autumn. The principle one bold plant, one key position remains constant. Budget $5 to $15 for a single specimen plant. Idea 14. The worm farm from 2 buckets. Idea number 14. The garden infrastructure idea that produces the most valuable substance in any growing garden, worm castings from kitchen waste that would otherwise go into the bin. Take 2 plastic buckets of the same diameter. Drill small holes across the entire base of the first bucket. These allow liquid to drain downward and worms to migrate between levels. Drill air holes around the upper sides of the same bucket. Place this drilled bucket inside the second, undrilled bucket. The gap between the base of the drilled bucket and the base of the outer bucket collects the liquid worm castings, known as worm tea, that drains through. Place a layer of damp, shredded newspaper in the base of the inner drilled bucket. Add a double handful of composting worms, red wigglers, available from any fishing supplier or garden center for a few dollars. Cover with a thin layer of kitchen vegetable scraps, fruit and vegetable peelings, coffee grounds, tea bags, crushed eggshells. Cover the surface with a damp piece of cardboard to maintain moisture and darkness. Feed small amounts every few days. The worms process the scraps into worm castings, the most nutrient-dense organic fertilizer available, within 2 to 3 weeks. Dilute the collected worm tea 10 parts water to 1 part concentrate. Apply to any plant. The response in growth and vigor is visible within 2 weeks. Budget: $0 for buckets already in the shed. A few dollars for worms. Idea 15. The edge cut. Idea number 15. The simplest thing on this entire list, and the one that makes the biggest difference to how a backyard feels every single day. The edge cut. Take a half-moon edger, or a flat spade if that is what you have. Run it along every border edge in a backyard. Every line where the lawn meets a bed. Every line where the path meets the grass. Every line where the gravel meets the planting. Cut a clean, vertical edge. Crisp, precise, consistent along the full length of every transition in the garden. Remove the displaced soil. Add it to the compost. Then stand back. The backyard looks different. Not because anything was added. Not because anything was removed beyond a thin line of soil. But because every boundary in the space is now sharp and deliberate. And sharp, deliberate boundaries communicate that the space is cared for. An unedged border beside a lawn says the garden is not quite finished. An edged border beside a lawn says the garden is maintained. The plants are identical. The beds are identical. The difference is a 10-minute task with a half-moon edger. This is the idea most people save for later, for when the bigger projects are done, for when the space looks the way they want and all that is left is the finishing details. It is not a finishing detail. It is the first thing to do. Because a cleanly edged, well-defined backyard looks more like a designed garden than a cluttered one with expensive plants in it. Edge first, plant second. The sequence matters more than most people realize. Budget: $0 if you already own an edger. $15 if you need to buy one. The most important $15 this backyard will ever spend. 15 ideas, plus 4 bonus ideas, for simple, genius DIY backyard garden projects that anyone can try. The 3-layer container. The inverted bottle slow drip feeder. The painted concrete path. The self-seeding flower patch. The buried terracotta irrigation pot. The single color planting scheme. The pallet compost bin. The repeating plant rhythm. The wine bottle torch. The dead space corner solution. The hanging gutter planter. The newspaper mulch layer. The color pop single plant. The worm farm from 2 buckets. The edge cut that changes everything. And 4 bonus ideas. The bottle cloche row, the focal point mirror, the dark mulch upgrade, and the 3-second placement rule. Here's what I want right now. Pick 2 ideas from this list. The one that excites you most, and the one that feels most immediately achievable. Write them both in the comments below. Tell me which 2 and why. I will read every comment. I will reply to everyone with a specific tip for making your 2 chosen ideas work together in your specific backyard. And share this with one person who keeps saying they will sort out their backyard when they have more time and more money. Because this list just removed both of those excuses. Next week on Daily Garden Fix, the complete guide to growing vegetables in containers. Every vegetable worth growing. Every container that works. Every mistake that kills a crop and exactly how to avoid it. Everything in one video for anyone who wants to grow food but does not have the ground to do it in. Subscribe. Hit the bell. I will see you there. Start with the edge cut. Do it today. See what it does.